program, and I announced, I have a new therapy for treatment of disease X. Well, do you have any research to support it? No, I don't believe in doing that sort of scientific research because we can't determine what quality is or anything, but I want you to pay for my new therapy. It costs $100,000 a patient, and I want you to pay for it now. Now, what are you going to say? Are you going to say, well, I guess we have to cover everything, or are you going to say, well, you have to produce some data to prove it works? And if I'm producing data that proves it works, then I'm doing comparative effectiveness research.
I don't think anybody disagree. I don't disagree with Michael on that. Science. Let me see if I can introduce a different term. Maybe it's not. Medicine should be science-based as opposed to evidence-based. And if a doctor is going to say, "Try that," and he says, "Well, just trust me," then you should go to see another doctor. And if, secondly, per what the senator said, we need to become partners in our healthcare. We need to be responsible for our healthcare in terms of not only cost sharing, but as I alluded to in my presentation, there are some very good, you can get second opinions on the internet. You can use many tools, health grades, PubMed, et cetera, to trust but verify. And increasingly, physicians, while they will moan about it a little bit, are in fact open to sitting down and talking to you about, well, okay, why you shouldn't be on a statin. I'll give you a very, very good example. There's now a very hot controversy about the use of C-reactive protein testing as a marker for whether you should use Crestor or not. I'm not a doctor, I happen to feel that it's a good marker, but some doctors don't feel that it is. There's very good information on the internet for you to go in and talk to your doctor about whether, as a woman that doesn't have a history of heart disease, that has a history of heart disease but doesn't have high cholesterol, to be tested for inflammation, and to talk to your doctor about it. Now, per what Twyla said, the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force is not mandating C-reactive protein testing in primary prevention. Why? Because once they do, then everyone's got to pay for it. My feeling is the government should get their nose out of all that stuff, and everyone should the market should drive these kinds of things, and experience, which can be collected and evaluated with the kinds of digital information that is easily connected and shared through Google. I mean, for God's sakes, Google is collecting real-time retail information that can make the consumer price index obsolete. We can do that with health information.
Next question, please state your name and affiliation.
I will. I'm Wes Keller, representative of Alaska, and I have a question, a very specific question. I'd like to direct it first at Twyla, but first I want to give you a little bit of background. Last night I was on a teleconference. Alaska's 4 hours difference than we are, and the teleconference was about
That's a flippin' long time.
Evidence-based medicine. So I think Christy's been reading my email, because I have on my computer, and I can give you a copy if you want it, a draft recommendation that the Alaska Health Commission is about to make. And I suggested, and this is, I've given you background, but then I have a question. I suggested redefining the terms evidence-based medicine and comparative effectiveness to include patient-centered concepts and market concepts. And the question is, what's the problem with that? I mean, is evidence-based medicine is a term that we're all throwing around, you know, and of course, like you pointed out, we have nothing wrong with, you know, the evidence is great, you know. So if we use the term and say, okay, we all know that patients make choices about their health care, and they don't have the appropriate evidence in order to make that choice. And obviously it's because the market isn't happening. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm philosophically completely on the same page. And then when you get into the recommendation end, you know, where do you go? you say, well, the patient has to have some kind of authority here, or is the one who actually makes the decision. And there's real problems here because, you know, he who pays makes the decision of what they're paying for. And unfortunately, we're in a system where the government pays, so it's very difficult from a political position to be able to say, well, the government has no right to buy here for quality.
Well,
but the essence of my
taxpayer pays.
question, let me get the question real clear if I can, is evidence-based medicine and comparative effectiveness just how common and how defined? I don't know the history. By the way, Alaska isn't crazy. There's only 2 of us ex officio members on this commission, and I don't vote, but I do have a voice. So, I mean, we have doctors and all that on there, but is this a term of art that, like I remember one doctor saying, hey, I learned evidence-based medicine when I went to college, you know, medical school. That's what it was all about, you know. So can we steal a term and do some definitions?
Well, my concern is, it just as a way of looking at it, is how long have we had the practice of medicine and never put the term evidence-based medicine in statute? And the reason of evidence-based medicine and putting it into statute, we have it in statute in Minnesota, and it's a very long, rambling thing. But the fact of the matter is, because it's not precise, because you cannot make it precise to you versus you versus you versus you, right? Evidence for each individual is going to be different because but the fact is when you put it into statute, I mean, you know this as well as I do, you put it into statute, it is black words on a white page with regulatory discretion, right? And so they can choose any study they want to, and even if you put patient-centeredness, they'll say, well, we looked at this study, and for this patient, even though the patient thinks it's going to be good for them, it's not going to, so we're not going to pay for it. You know, evidence-based medicine, putting that term into statute is not about patient-centeredness. It's about government decision-making. So that, you know, you put that in there and you give the authority for the government to make the decision when you should be turning around and saying, we shouldn't be going further into this terrible valley of government getting bigger. We should be getting out of it, which means not defining that and giving the money back. So,
And evidence changes. I mean, does anyone know what the evidence-based recommendation is for aspirin for men and women after a heart attack or before a heart attack? It's,
1 a day.
you know, it changes. And you can go on the internet and find 3 different views: yes, no, maybe. And then, of course, now there's evidence that taking a baby aspirin a day reduces the risk of, it's epidemiological evidence, reduces the risk of colon cancer. But it may also raise the risk of intracranial bleeding among some people. Like, okay, it's...
I think the hormone replacement study is perhaps the most,
Yes.
the clear big one, because they said that if you gave women hormones to replace, you know, when they got of that age, that they would decrease the heart attacks of women, and what a wonderful thing. And then it was several years ago where a study came out, the Women's Health Study, that said no, 40% more likelihood that they will get heart attacks as a result of it.
Well, the combination, yeah.
Yeah, so, and they could not disprove either study. So now what they do is they tell doctors, talk it over with the patient.
I believe we have